2024 has been filled with breaking news, beautiful stories, and meaningful community moments. Thank you for joining us this Christmas evening. I'm Genevieve Rayom.
And I'm David Clue. Tonight, we are taking a look back at some of our favorite stories throughout the entire year. But before we get to our favorites, let's take a look back at some of the biggest stories of 2024. Oregon saw a record wildfire season, burning just shy of 2 million acres of land. According to the Northwest Interagency Coordination Center, Oregon saw more than 1,900 wildfires this year. 45 of those believed to have been human-caused, while the others said to have been started by lightning.
One of those fires hit close to home. Quite literally, on August 2nd, the mile marker 132 fire was reported, and it grew rapidly. Law enforcement confirmed it started from a cooking fire at an encampment on property along Highway 97. It burned about 78 acres of that private property all along the highway.
Another fire that got dangerously close, the Darlene 3 fire just outside La Pine, starting on June 25th. The flames reported in the early afternoon, just 1 mile southeast of La Pine. Hundreds were evacuated from their homes, and because of this video you're seeing right now that spread on social media, many believe the fire was started at a homeless encampment. Darlene 3 was contained at just shy of 4,000 acres.
And finally, the Bachelor complex fires burned more than 16,000 acres of land. The clusters of different fires were all started by lightning strikes the second weekend of September. The complex prompted several evacuation notices and left heavy smoke.
This election season, there was one local race that caught a lot of national attention thanks to the impact it would have on the U.S. House of Representatives.
It was Democrat Janelle Bynum against incumbent Republican Lori Chavez-DeRemer.
Yeah, this election, Oregon voters chose Bynum. The race was close, and no one called a winner until several days after the election. And just weeks after Bynum was elected by Oregonians to represent Congressional District 5, President-elect Donald Trump nominated Chavez-DeRemer to add her to his cabinet as Labor Secretary.
And later this evening, we will share more of our top stories this year.
Yeah, but first, our Brooks Navely shares one of his favorites from the Great Outdoors series.
It's called the Advent Chair. It's basically a wheelchair built sturdy as a mountain bike on a long, durable 3-wheel frame that can roll over uneven terrain.
Our philosophy is that anywhere somebody can physically take you, you can go. The chair will basically do it. The fitter you are, the better, but you know, if you want to go, for example, go around Chevelin Park, Jeff and I just do it, the two of us. I can push him and be fine on a level paved surface.
Jeff Babb helped invent the Advent Chair after suffering 2 strokes that limited his ability to reach the places he loves.
It means a lot because I used to live outside, and to be able to be in such a beautiful place and working hard and working with people, it's just like I was hiking or climbing myself. It means a lot.
In rough terrain, like the trails at Smith Rock State Park, the rider must have assistance.
How many people does it take today?
You can do it fairly easily with 4, 1 person up front, and it depends on whether you're going uphill or downhill. 2 people on the sides to keep it balanced, keep the center of gravity from going too far, and then a driver, which actually drives with handlebars like a bicycle. They have disc brakes that are designed for the mountain bike industry.
This excursion marks the launch of wheelchair-accessible tours called Advent Tours in association with Wanderlust Tours of Bend, to places previously thought unreachable.
Our mission is to get people outside in whatever capacity they're ready for. So, you know, to meet someone where they're at and say, hey, it may not be easy to get you down there, but if you want to get down there, we are so excited to get you down there.
Wanderlust Tours of Bend is scheduling more Advent Tours for people riding in these all-terrain wheelchairs. They can also arrange private tours.
For myself, I'm a team leader, a chair leader, and a mule. So keeping people safe, making sure we're hooked up the right way, people aren't overexerting themselves, spending energy we shouldn't, and making sure it's enjoyable, keeping people rotating so we're not all wore out, and making sure we get to good viewpoints, have a spot where people can enjoy the view, talk about the view, scout it out, check the trail for what we may or may not need to go through, and keeping everybody rested and hydrated.
But no going in, the wheelchair rider must bring friends who are willing and physically able to help push, pull, and stabilize the chair as it passes over uneven terrain.
One of the things that, for my passion in doing what I'm doing here today and what I've become involved in, is seeing the smile of accomplishment on the individuals that we're taking out. It's their caregivers, their family, everyone around them. It grows from there. That's the part that drives me.
We have family and friends that come visit us here. One of the first places we take them is Smith Rock, and we always have to stop at the edge right here at the parking lot. So being able to go down further, much further into the rock area so he can see things close up and touch things and hear more geological information about the area, it's great for him.
And how was the ride for you?
It's good. It's it's kind of narrow and steep, but it's pretty.
Do you trust your mules?
I have no choice.
For our athlete today, he's been to Smith Rock before. He hasn't made it more than 100 feet from the parking lot. In addition to that, today was his first time to get to see monkey face. And so that's the kind of stuff that just really makes me so happy. It really reminds me, like, this is why I do what I do.
From Smith Rock State Park, I'm Brooke Snavely for The Great Outdoors.
Tonight, one of our favorite In Focus stories.
Our Steve Kaufman takes us back to a place where you wouldn't typically associate the words freedom and independence. Regardless, it was found with the help of some four-legged friends.
With some things in life, appearances can be deceiving. Take this place, Eastern Oregon Correctional Institution in Pendleton.
See the softness that is really in their hearts and who they are as a person, not what their exterior says that they are.
This is Joy St. Peter.
She has given us all a second chance at redemption.
With plenty of help from these four-legged friends.
I'm happy to welcome you to our Joys of Living Assistance Dogs passing of the leash ceremony.
Known around here as the J-Lad program.
The facilitators, who are an extension of Miss St. Peter herself. This is River.
Joy founded the Salem-based nonprofit in 2004 and took the training inside the walls of this medium security prison 8 years ago.
I couldn't get enough volunteers to help out enough.
With a captive group of trainers, the organization flourished. And so did the lives of these inmates turned dog whisperers.
If you look deeper, this is much more than dog training.
If you get really nervous, Ozzy, come. He'll just come and stick his head down there and he'll sit there just to make sure you're okay.
Ozzy.
And then if you tell him, enough, I'm all right, he knows that you're okay.
Was trained in part by Elias Ward.
This is my fourth time, unfortunately, in prison, and the first 3 times I was in prison, he just kind of felt like I was wasting my life sitting around waiting to get out, and now it's kind of giving me a purpose and a meaning.
Yes! Ozzy's next purpose, to help Julia Lavoie.
I've been struggling for a really long time from post-traumatic stress disorder, and it gives me a lot of social anxiety and some related OCD behaviors.
The three met today for the very first time. But Ozzy knows the inmates well. The dogs train throughout the day and even sleep in the inmates' cells, rotating out every 2 weeks to volunteers in the community for continued obedience work. A process lasting 18 months to 2 years.
We learn important life skills here, such as communication. Not just with our dogs, but with each other.
The dogs learn too.
Travis will lead Yukon between his legs and supports him to sit. Tia quickly crawls under the chair, makes a 3-point turn, and assumes a down position. She relocates her balance point each time. Success. And quickly gets the meds and retrieves them. But Daniel's straying off, he doesn't know. Summer returns the helper and brings him back to her handler.
Providing their humans a newfound sense of freedom and independence.
I didn't think I'd ever come back this way.
2 things Steve Merez now has.
I think the only freedom that we get is when we have the leash in our hand.
He was a trainer for the first class of graduates and a participant in the program until his release.
Graduated 7, including Pisces. I remember he had a big face, he was lovable.
Okay, let's go.
Meet Pisces.
That's where he really shines for me.
A J-Lad service dog, helping Steve Van Dyke of Bend navigate life with Parkinson's.
I have a hard time walking across nondescript areas like the road, open field. I can't seem to pick my way through it, and so I'll tend to freeze when I get out in those situations.
An avid outdoorsman, he lost that independence until he received his first J-Lad dog named Jack.
And not only did I get my life back, but my wife got her life back too.
Pisces guides, provides balance, and can even fetch help for Steve wherever they go.
Our favorite thing to do is fish together.
19 years living with a debilitating disease. He's had his service dog for the majority of his diagnosis.
It becomes that you're a team.
A return to some normalcy, now with the dog trained in prison.
Their stories were amazing on how this dog changed their lives.
Back in Pendleton, inside these walls, it's graduation time.
To the recipients that are here receiving their dogs, your lives are about to change for the better, and I can promise you that.
Okay, so the person that has Ozzy, please come forward.
Elias's symbolic act of passing the leash will help Julia better cope with her disability.
These dogs now make it to where they have the freedom to do that.
I'm really looking forward to getting to know him and being a team with him.
Now he's over there, laying down by your feet.
I feel like the luckiest person in the world right now.
A feeling shared by these inmates who just lost one friend,
little tiny guy,
only to gain another.
Just got him 5 minutes ago.
In Pendleton, Steve Kaufman, Central Oregon Daily News.
Hey, it's Megan. I'm so fortunate to have the opportunity to invite guests to come on the morning show. Nonprofits share details about their fundraisers. Mental health professionals offer tips on how to navigate life. We've even transformed our news desk to an artist workshop, and I've picked up some new skills along the way. It's been a wonderful year. It's very exciting to have Jill Drum here, Natalie O'Connor here, April Ferguson, Dane Olson here. He is the bar manager of Waypoint by Ben Brewing Company. Our community is pretty special. On Good Morning Central Oregon, we feature nonprofits and their events, such as the Central Oregon Charity Championship. Another one was the annual Alzheimer's Walk.
The orange flower represents someone who maybe doesn't have a personal connection to Alzheimer's disease, but they support our vision of a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia. And then the yellow flower is for somebody who is currently caring for someone living with the disease. The purple flower means that somebody has lost someone to Alzheimer's or another dementia. And the blue flower is for somebody who has been diagnosed. So as you can imagine, it's a really heart-warming piece of the event.
I've truly enjoyed getting to know some incredible artists and business owners around Central Oregon. And they've been so wonderful to come into the studio bright and early and teach me a bit of their craft. You guys are all over town, all over Central Oregon doing these paint parties.
Yeah, we are in Madras, Prineville, Redmond, Crooked River Ranch, Bend, Sisters, Lapine. Yeah, it's a blast. I love it. I'm so lucky to be able to do this for a living.
So we're really looking for layers. So when you're selecting plants, usually for a size terrarium like this, you're looking for one ground cover, one medium bush, and one like trailing taller plant. Okay. And so do you like pink or red?
I'm red.
Stress.
It was hard to choose. You're basically going to press down. You're going to hold it like this and press down, and you're going to make your little slits like your pumpkin, so that it kind of looks like this.
How cute!
Yeah.
This is so easy.
It is very easy. And then you can obviously add more seasoning to cover it all. And then you can take a pretzel, a stick, anything that, you know.
I thought you were going to have us tie this pumpkin up, and I was like, I don't know, I can barely get the paprika on top. It has been a great year, and only seems fitting to end with one special guy.
You know what Santa's very favorite cookie is?
Tell me.
Any cookie that's made with love.
You guys! We did it. And also thanks Costco. Definitely made with love too. Okay, Santa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to all, and to all a great day.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Megan Sinclair, Central Oregon Daily News.
Every week, Central Oregon Daily highlights a local veteran.
Tonight, we share one of those stories close to the heart of photojournalist Jared Gatley. He says this particular story demonstrates how veterans' legacies impact their families for years after the veteran's service.
These are the original maps that were the Michelin tourist maps. Always had an interest in history, World War II, obviously since my dad was in it. And he'd had a few stories over the years, had memorabilia that, he would hang around his desk. And I'd ask him a few times, what he did, and he'd kind of, nothing, not really anything. And then finally, in his mid-80s, which would have been about 15 years ago, he approached me and said, I'll sit down with you, I'll tell you what I can remember from World War II. So grabbed the tape recorder and he got out a stack of maps that he had carried with him through the war and laid them all out, and he started kind of going along the routes that he already had marked on the maps, telling me what he could recall.
This is central Epinal, central France on the eastern side, but it has the route they took through all the little towns.
And it was after that I went, this would be a pretty cool trip. And it was after he had passed away 10 years ago. And so it kind of morphed from there into actually planning it and putting it all together. My sisters went with me. As soon as they found out that I was going on this trip, they raised their hand and said, yep, we want to go too. So we stuffed 5 of us in a car and made the trip. It's been about 3 weeks, driving all the way up through France and then on into Germany. Got into Munich, so the war's over, and this is Memorial Day, 1945. He would write letters home to his mom and his sister, but his mother saved all of the letters that he wrote home. 3 weeks ago, during a trying part of this campaign, a Frenchman and his wife brought us a large platter of meat, a couple loaves of French bread, and a bottle of cognac. They landed August 15th of 44, and the war was over just shy of a year later in May of 45. So what took us 3 weeks took them about a year. 45th Division, 120th Combat Engineers, Company C, 2nd Platoon. The pillboxes are just concrete bunkers that are back in the hillside. And these are 2 of them that they took out that night. Every week or every month, you have a clerk that sits down and types up everything that went on in that unit based on the reports that are given to them by the lieutenants and the captains and the majors. And it's basically a daily history of that unit. Having that in front of me, listing town by town, the information I got from my dad's maps and putting all of that together, I don't want to say it was easy to lay out the trip, but it gave you we followed the path exactly that my dad took.
That's the road we ended up driving on through the farmer's field, which is the exact road that Dad took. I mean, you don't get too much closer than that.
Added some black and white photos that he had where you could hold the black and white photo up and then you take a new picture of it and it's exactly the same. What you have to do is you have to look through the bridge, and that hillside there is that hillside there. He had a little spiral notebook. He would keep track, a daily log of what they did day to day, very cryptic, because he said, if I get captured, I don't want to have too much stuff in here. So on this particular December 5th, filled shell craters, or they made a prefab bridge, sweeping for mines, and then it would talk about how many mines they would take out. So that went through the war, and then in the back of the notebook, he would keep track of everybody that was in his unit, name, serial number, the rank, and then a few notations in here, whether they were WIA, wounded in action, or KIA, killed in action. I carried his compass with me along with his dog tags. Kind of Dad went with us. There were times it would just send shivers up your spine, recognizing that he was there with his unit. I mean, and you're you're physically walking the same footsteps in many of the places that we went, but being able to go through and see all of that as you're reading through the unit history, looking at the maps, going up the road that they traveled. And that's I think what brought it home more than anything, was having the map and being able to know we need to take a right here, and you're following along the same footsteps. For the last 15 years, I'd kind of wanted to do it. And then with my sisters going along, it kind of brought it all home. I just didn't want to get it lost to history.
A few Oregon law changes going into effect back in September. Possession of small amounts of hard drugs will now be considered a crime once again. This rolls back that part of Measure 110 that passed nearly 4 years ago. Now there's a push to offer deflection programs as an alternative to criminal penalties. Other parts of the measure, such as funding for recovery programs and services, will remain intact.
Bend Senior High School is in the middle of a new campus remodel, but one part of the construction had to happen ahead of schedule. In July, construction crews found several structural issues with the auditorium, which required that it be taken down. Because it was the largest auditorium in Bend, several productions had to scramble for new venues to perform.
The north end of Bend got a major facelift this year thanks to the North Corridor project. Those improvements include several new roundabouts along Highway 20 and a Highway 97 bypass around the Cascade Village Shopping Center. ODOT started construction in early 2023. It was supposed to be finished by Christmas of this year. It actually finished 2 months ahead of schedule, with the ribbon cutting happening back on October 9th of this year. In total, the North Corridor project cost nearly $200 million. And right along the newly paved North Corridor stands the brand new Costco. Now, the larger Costco sits on the far north end of Bend. It adds a gas station, and construction of a new car wash is already underway.
This year, a local effort to buy Mount Bachelor Ski Resort took off. Powder, the ski resort's parent company, announced its intent to sell back in August. Just 1 month after the announcement, 2 locals started organizing a group to buy the ski resort and keep it in the ownership of the community. The price tag for Bachelor, around $75 million, but the community group has brought along investors and local businesses to try and make that purchase a reality. A GoFundMe has already raised more than $40,000 at this point. There's also a website that we have linked online where you can learn more about the group and the ways to join that community effort to buy the resort.
Let's take a break from our top stories now. Here is Emily Kirk with her favorite Taste This segment.
For this year's Best of for Taste This, I chose a story that we had a lot of fun filming. Myself, head cinematographer Matthew Pugarud, and photographer Helena Duarte got creative with this one. Danny's Drive-In is a staple in Bend, and while it's one of the oldest establishments in the city, it's also one of the most unique. We learn more about the iconic eatery and get behind the scenes and in the car. It's a blast from the past, and you don't even have to venture off 3rd Street.
The Skaters is what we go with, since it is pretty unique.
Dandy's Drive-In is the 3rd oldest restaurant in Bend, and the Skaters have been skating ever since.
Been here since 1968, and yeah.
Hi,
rolling on in.
Doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. What can I get started for you?
How about it?
Let's go with a classic cheeseburger.
Okay.
And an order of fries.
Perfect.
Please.
Do you want fry sauce with that?
Absolutely. Gotta have that.
You don't have to leave your car to put in an order, but you do need to flash your headlights for service. And a side of onion rings.
Okay. Did you want fry sauce as well?
Yes, please. Absolutely. And may I also please have a fresh strawberry milkshake?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, well, I have to get a root beer float now.
You gotta do the root beer float. What size did you want to do?
Let's go 16.
The car hops fly by on roller skates, making it a unique experience while you eat your food.
Nice to be able to just come here, not have to get out of your car in any element of weather, whether it's cold or really hot outside. You can sit in here and with your family or yourself and just kind of enjoy.
Speaking of which, skating on in. Sweet. You got a lot in your hands there, girl.
Start you off with the root beer float.
Thank you. There's your strawberry.
I got you guys this food.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Yum.
Your brown bag of food and tray of milkshakes comes right to your window. When you started, did you know how to skate already?
Not at all. Not at all. I was nervous about it, absolutely. But the way that we do it, we try and be not overwhelming about it. It's actually the last piece of the puzzle that we introduce.
I noticed too with the skates, they're all hanging in the bathroom that you have there. Like when I went to go use the bathroom, I was like, whoa, look at all these roller skates.
There's so many different colors and
they've lived a lot of lives, I bet. Like all
They
the stories
have.
those skates could tell.
and the miles. Another common thing that we'll get asked, how many miles do you do a day?
The skaters deliver on the classic sandwiches day in and day out. I have to say, I've only ever just had the regular Chickwich before. What makes it grand?
Typical chicken witch comes with sauce, lettuce, and pickle, but a chicken grand still has a sauce, lettuce, and pickle, but it adds tomato, cheese, and bacon to it. It takes the chicken witch to the next level. It's one of my favorite things on the menu.
Visitors to Dandy's come in all shapes and sizes, including the cars and trucks that pull up to order. Working here, you've seen a lot of different types of people, including your vehicle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, you see the brand new ones and then you see the old classic cars and they can be side by side, you know, and that's really, I think, shows, you know, that it brings that nostalgia factor into it. You know, you see a cool car pull up and everyone, you know, is out the window staring. They're like, oh my goodness, look at that car.
Dandy's Drive-In also offers cheeseburgers, fish and ham sandwiches, grilled cheeses, chicken strips, tater tots, onion rings, along with a wide variety of milkshakes.
Everything is still the same. I think that's what makes Dandy's Dandy's. You know, everything, we still have the same menu, same fry sauce, and we've kind of perfected that. And I think that's why we're fortunate enough to still be here. So
yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely.
Right? Only small changes have been made since 1968, but those who have eaten there for decades go back for the nostalgia.
It's been about 2.5 years that we switched over to a POS system. It's just made it a lot more efficient, so it's been a really positive change.
And so that's nice to have somebody come in who understand to keep it the classic that it is.
Absolutely. The owner actually worked here right out of high school, and she actually had seen it for what it was, and was really passionate about it, and that makes it really special. So it's near and dear to her heart and her husband's.
You can find Dandy's Drive-In off 3rd Street in Bend. For another edition of Taste This, I'm Emily Kirk.
When asked to come up with my favorite Little Did I Know of the year, it was a big challenge because my favorite one is always the one that I'm currently working on. But it's Christmas, so the obvious choice was a story I did about spiritual well-being. It's worth striving for throughout the year, but especially during the holidays. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to a story about one of my favorite topics, gratitude.
I'm grateful for my job at Central Oregon Daily News. I'm also grateful that I get to do Little Did I Know. It's a lot of fun. But I'm also grateful for gratitude. I've addressed mental health on previous episodes of Little Did I Know because I'm just like y'all. Life occasionally gives me one good butt kicking.
And gratitude, every time, without fail, was always the end result.
There are countless medical studies that show that having an attitude of gratitude is really, really good for your physical health. But to me, mental health is more of a spiritual thing, so I decided to have a chat with a couple of spiritual guys. Michael runs the Natural Mind Dharma Center in West Bend.
There's a great teaching that says if we act with an unsettled mind, we'll have unsettling experiences. The first thought that calls the mind home, in other words, calls us back to who we really are, truly are, in our heart of hearts. The first thought is the preciousness of having been born. I mean, we have so many challenges and experiences that we have that when we come on the other side of them, we've grown and changed and they've enriched our life. So even the most difficult situations we have, to have cultivated at least a little bit of gratitude for the fact that we're here and able to experience this, you know, and then use it to be not only a benefit to ourselves and our growth, but to benefit to others too.
The Christian faith speaks to gratitude in almost identical words.
There's an ancient mystic in the 14th century by the name of Meister Eckhart
who said the only prayer you ever need is 2 words: thank you. And I've really discovered that you need gratitude the most when there's very little to be grateful for. That I call it fierce gratitude.
In my life, it was actually my darkest hours that led to the most gratitude. And gratitude is the key to getting out of your own mind.
That's what happens with gratitude. It slows us down. It allows us to see what we may have not seen before. It allows us to listen to what we might not have listened to before. And I think it makes the world better.
Steve Koski was recently talking to a friend who has cancer. He said that the darkness that took him over was like looking through a window with multiple panes of glass, when suddenly one of the panes of glass got very dark.
All of a sudden, everything's dark. You become kind of obsessed where that's all you're thinking about, and you become overwhelmed by what's wrong. You become overwhelmed with the challenge that you're facing. And we talked about how important it is to just take 2 steps back. I mean, the glass is still dark, and you have to tend to that. You can't ignore that. But if you take 2 steps back and become aware of the light that's shining through the other panes of glass, it actually changes then how you deal with the dark pane of glass. And he said something so beautiful. He said, Stephen, you know, my cancer doesn't make sunsets any less beautiful.
Michael told me his first piece of advice when someone is suffering is to find a good counselor, someone who will be a source of emotional connection and support.
But then meditation takes you to a much deeper place. It really helps you understand who it is that's depressed. Who is that person that is having the difficulty?
Einstein once said there are 2 ways to live your life. First, as though nothing is a miracle. Second, as though everything is a miracle. And a poem that Steve Koski told me sums it up best.
And the poem begins that I woke up and stood on 2 strong legs. One day, it will be otherwise. I ate cereal with cold milk, sweet, ripe peach. One day, it will be otherwise. I had dinner with candlesticks on my table. In my bedroom, there are paintings on the walls. One day, it will be otherwise. And she said, I sat down at the end of the day to plan another day, just like this day. But one day, it will be otherwise. Gratitude is what you need. It's the oxygen when the air is really thin.
Have joy and appreciation for wherever you are and whoever you meet. And what that does is it unplugs your ears. It allows you to hear what you might not have heard.
For Central Oregon Daily News, I'm grateful to be Scott Elnis.
If you or someone you know is having a mental health crisis, Deschutes County has a crisis line you can call 24 hours a day. That number's on your screen. It's 1-800-875-7364. We're back after a quick break with our favorite Destination Oregon.
I'm Dave Jones, the host of Destination Oregon. There are stories all over this great state, and my favorite from 2024 was when we had the good fortune to meet up with a fleet of fishermen in Pacific City. This hardy group has overcome the challenge of not having a harbor or a port to get out to sea, proving the adage that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. The dory fleet in Pacific City launches right off the beach. It's a tricky maneuver that requires special skills. Mother Nature decides if you can go out or if you should just go home. We set sail with Captain Joe Hay of Haystack Charters on a cold and foggy morning. We were the only boat on the beach, and I assumed that was because we were launching so early, but that was not the case. More on that in a moment. We hit the waves, or should I say, we attacked the waves, and they hit back.
Okay, hang on, you guys.
My first thought was, is it always this rough getting out to sea for the dory boats?
It looked great when we launched and then that big stuff came through. If you don't have the skills, then it can go disastrous.
I'm glad you didn't tell us that before.
The reason there were no other dory boats on the beach when we launched is that the waves were a little too sporty, as Captain Joe says. Other dory captains later told me that of all the dory boat captains in Pacific City, Joe was the best one to navigate these nasty waves. As we headed out to sea, we passed the iconic symbol of Pacific City, Haystack Rock.
It's the third largest seascape monolith in the world. It's 330 feet tall. It's actually named after my family. My last name is Hay, and we've lived there for 28 years.
Any of this true? Yeah, Captain Joe has some fun out there. This time of year, they're catching lean cod, black rockfish, and crab. In the summer, it turns to coho salmon and halibut. Some charters go farther out for tuna. Under the direction of Captain Joe and deckhand Peyton, charter guest John started fishing.
Once you hit the bottom, you're going to bounce the bottom 3 or 4 times. On your way down, you'll have fish that you're going through. You'll feel them hit it. If you go too quick, you just go right through the fish.
And it didn't take long before the action started.
You're not in a hurry, just slow and steady. Don't forget to breathe. Oh my. You only got 2.
And that set the stage for the morning.
Perfect. Oh my God, that thing's huge. That's a big old canary.
It might be tempting to simply say the fish were biting this morning, but you have to know where the fish are, and that is a necessary skill dory boat captains must possess. And Captain Joe has that in spades.
So reel up, you guys are going to move a little bit. Got something that's nibbling on this. That's a lingcod.
Honestly, it was shocking how many fish and how quickly John pulled them in.
I'm going to start calling him Turbo.
Is this common to be catching so many fish so fast? No. Yes?
Yeah. Reel up, John. We're going to move a little bit. We drifted off the spot.
In no time at all, John limited out, and we headed to Captain Joe's crab rings.
Dungeness.
So what are we doing now?
So I think what we'll do is we'll head down to the rock and go around the back side of the rock so you can tell everybody you've been on the far side.
Dory boat captain, fishing guide, stand-up comedian. Captain Joe has a lot of fun out there, but he gets very serious when he talks about why he does this.
Number one, going through the surf is so unique. It's one of 2 or 3 places in the world where they can go off the beach. Then to come out here in the fishery we have. Yeah, and you have to respect the ocean. I mean, I have a very healthy respect. I love the ocean.
And with that, it was time to head to shore, another complicated maneuver that requires power, skills, and timing. Adding to the tricky landing is avoiding surfers who also enjoy the Pacific City waves.
That was brilliant.
On the beach in Pacific City, this is Dave Jones for Destination Oregon.
The internet saw several trending stories throughout the course of this year. One of the big talkers was the Aurora Borealis, making an appearance in the Central Oregon skies. Thanks to a solar storm in May, the skies remained colorful for nearly a week. It was incredible. Then in October, once more, we saw the northern lights again. Thanks to our viewers, we got tons of amazing photos from both events.
Another video that made its rounds on social media features a bull from the Sisters Rodeo. Remember this one? This was the moment one of those bulls involved in the rodeo jumped the fence. More viewer video shows him charging through the crowd, throwing one woman into the air. You see right there. Ouch. 3 people were injured that night, with 2 taken to the hospital. Thankfully, the woman who got thrown in the viral video is okay. In fact, she was seen the next day at a local restaurant in a neck brace. As for the bull, known as Party Bus, he has since been retired from rodeoing and living out the rest of his life on a ranch.
And of course, it can't be a best of show without probably one of the most viral stories to come from Central Oregon this year.
Yeah, that's right. We are talking about googly eyes. This light-hearted vandalism was coined by Stephen Colbert and has made its way from the roundabout art to the national news like the New York Times and late-night talk shows, and even to international news. The BBC even aired something on it. One commentator on social media said, now when people ask where I'm from, I don't have to say it's where the last Blockbuster lives. I can say it's the googly eye town.
Oh, thank you for joining us this Christmas and sharing some of our favorite and most important stories of the year.
We are back tomorrow covering the stories that matter most to you. So happy holidays from all of us at Central Oregon Daily.